You've heard of Solomon, the wisest king who ruled with words sharper than any sword. But what if I told you that behind his gold and glory lies a trail of blood, betrayal, and secrets buried deep within sacred scrolls? Welcome to Pillow. Historian. Tonight, we slip into the ancient sands of Israel, where a young king named Solomon steps into a throne too big for his shoulders, his father David's legacy looming like a storm cloud. You're there, in Jerusalem's dust-choked streets, smelling cedar and sweat as crowds murmur about this untested heir. The air hums with hope, but also doubt. Can a boy king tame a fractured nation? Spoiler: you probably won't survive this tale without questioning everything you thought about wisdom. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off from tonight. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand in Jerusalem, circa 970 BCE, where the sun blisters the limestone walls. Solomon, barely out of his teens, grips the reins of a kingdom stitched together by his father's sword and charisma. David, the shepherd-turned-king, left a legacy of conquest and psalms, but also a mess rival heirs, restless tribes, and neighbors sharpening their spears. You feel the weight on Solomon's shoulders as he climbs the palace steps, his robes too heavy, his crown slightly askew. The court buzzes with advisors, priests, and half-brothers who'd rather see him fail. Adonijah, his older sibling, already tried to steal the throne, parading around with chariots and a smug grin. You can almost hear the whispers. Too young, too soft, he'll crumble. But Solomon doesn't flinch. You watch him sit on the throne, his dark eyes scanning the room. He's not David, all fire and poetry. He's calculating quiet, like a chess player sizing up the board. His mother, Bathsheba, stands nearby, her presence a reminder of David's scandals, adultery, murder, and a marriage that still raises eyebrows. Historians still argue whether Bathsheba coaxed Solomon to power or if she was just a pawn in a bigger game. Either way, you sense her influence, a steel spine behind her son's calm facade. The first test comes fast. Adonijah, banished but not broken, asks for Abishag, David's last concubine, as a bride. It's not just a creepy request, it's a power grab, a signal he's still gunning for the crown. You hold your breath as Solomon's face hardens. He doesn't hesitate. Put Adonijah to death, he orders, his voice steady. The executioner's blade flashes, and just like that, Solomon's first rival is gone. You're stunned, but also intrigued. This kid means business. Mainstream history confirms Solomon's swift consolidation of power, with texts like 1 Kings describing his elimination of threats like Adonijah and Joab, David's ruthless general. But there's a quirky tidbit. Some ancient sources claim Solomon used a ring inscribed with a secret name of God to command loyalty or maybe demons. True? Probably not. But you can't help picturing him twisting that ring, plotting his next move. You wander the palace halls where servants scurry and scribes scratch on papyrus. Solomon's not just killing rivals. He's building a system. He appoints loyalists, reorganizes the tribes, and demands taxes to fund his vision. The people grumble David's wars were expensive, and now this? You catch a farmer muttering about golden calves funding the king's whims, a sarcastic jab at Solomon's growing wealth. Joke number 1, if Solomon's taxes were any higher, they'd have to pay in firstborns and falafel. The city pulses with change. You smell fresh-cut cedar from Lebanon, shipped in for Solomon's projects. He's dreaming big palaces, temples, maybe even a legacy to outshine David's. But you notice something else. The women. Solomon's already collecting wives, not for love, but for alliances. Egyptian princesses, Moabite nobles, there. Contracts in human form. You wonder how he keeps their names straight. Joke 2. His harem's so big, he probably needs a scroll just to remember who's who. Yet, beneath the hustle, you sense Solomon's loneliness. He's king, but he's human. At night, you imagine him staring at the stars, wondering if he's enough. The pressures immense unite a nation, please God, and don't screw it up. You relate, don't you? That feeling of everyone watching, waiting for you to fail. Solomon's just better at hiding it. You pause at the city gates, where merchants haggle over spices and sheep. A quirky detail catches your ear. Some say Solomon's throne had mechanical lions that roared when he sat down. Engineering marvel. Or exaggerated PR? You decide. But it fits the image he's crafting: untouchable, divine, a king unlike any other. Still, you can't shake the feeling that every choice he makes, every rival he buries, plants a seed of trouble. The kingdom's stable, but for how long? As you linger, the wind carries the sound of prayers from the high place at Gibeon, where Solomon will soon make his famous request. You're eager to follow, to see what shapes this man who's equal parts ruthless and revered. For now, you rest in the shadow of his throne, the weight of his crown heavy in the air. You're in Gibeon now, the air thick with incense and the low hum of chants. It's night, and Solomon, Israel's young king, kneels at the high place, a stone altar flickering under torchlight. You smell burnt offerings, lamb, myrrh, and something sharp like ambition. He's here to pray, to seek God's favor, and you're close enough to see the sweat bead on his brow. This isn't just a ritual, it's a gamble. You feel the stakes. A kingdom watching, a legacy teetering. Solomon's already crushed his rivals, but brute force won't hold Israel together. He needs something bigger. You lean in curious. What does a king ask for when the world's at his feet? The mainstream fact is clear. 1 Kings 3 record Solomon's. Famous prayer for wisdom, a divine gift to govern justly. You picture him, eyes closed, whispering his request. Not wealth, not power, not a long life, just understanding. It's bold, almost reckless, like betting your whole stack on a single card. God answers in a dream, and you're there, inside Solomon's mind as the vision unfolds. A voice, vast and warm, promises him discernment sharper than any blade. You feel the weight of it settle on him, a mantle both empowering and heavy. He wakes, gasping, the stars above Gibeon, brighter than before. But here's the quirky tidbit. Some Jewish midrashim claim Solomon's wisdom wasn't just intellectual. They say he could speak to animals, understand their chatter like a Disney princess on steroids. Imagine him pausing mid-prayer to eavesdrop on a sparrow's gossip about the priest's bad breath. It's probably folklore, but you grin, picturing him smirking at a camel's complaint about the heat. Joke 1. If Solomon could talk to animals, his court was basically the world's first TED Talk with a zoo. You wander back to Jerusalem with him, the dawn painting the hills gold. Solomon's change, you see it in his stride, the way he scans the crowds. His wisdom isn't just book smarts. It's a knack for seeing through people, like X-ray vision for motives. You're at his court when the first test arrives. 2 women, 1 baby, and a dispute that's got everyone stumped. You know the story. Both claim the child, their voices shrill with grief. The room tenses as Solomon leans forward, his eyes glinting. "Cut the baby in half," he says, calm as if ordering lunch. You gasp, heart racing. Is he serious? The crowd freezes, but one woman screams, begging to save the child, even if it means losing him. Solomon nods, pointing to her. She's the mother. You exhale, impressed but rattled. Historians still argue whether this was a real case or a parable to showcase Solomon's insight. Did he stage it for clout, or was it a genuine crisis? Either way, you're hooked. His mind works like a trap, springing shut on truth while others fumble. The story spreads like wildfire. Merchants whisper it in Tyre. Shepherds retell it over campfires. Solomon's not just a king. He's a legend in the making. You linger in the palace, where scribes are already scribbling Solomon's proverbs. You catch one. A gentle answer turns away wrath. Simple, but it sticks, like advice you'd hear from a therapist with a side hustle in poetry. His wisdom's practical, rooted in the mess of human nature. You see him settle disputes land, feuds, trade scams, even a bizarre case involving a stolen donkey and a barrel of figs. Each time, he cuts through the noise with a clarity that feels almost supernatural. Joke 2. His court so efficient, he could have moonlighted as a marriage counselor for goats. But you notice something else. Solomon's wisdom comes with a shadow. He's too perceptive, catching every lie, every hidden agenda. You wonder if it's exhausting, never trusting fully. At a banquet, you watch him charm foreign envoys, his laughter easy, but his eyes dark, always assessing. He's married more princesses now, Ammonite, Hittite, each sealing a treaty. You smell their perfumes, heavy with jasmine and power. These women aren't just wives. They're chess pieces in a game spanning empires. You admire the strategy, but it feels cold. Does he ever relax? Or is his brain always 3 moves ahead? The city thrives under his rule. You walk markets bursting with pomegranates, silks, and copper from Ophir. Taxes flow, roads improve, and the temple's foundation is laid, a project you'll see soon enough. But there's a quirk. Some say Solomon's wisdom included botany, naming every plant from cedar to hyssop. You imagine him geeking out over a shrub, muttering Latin names before Latin existed. It's endearing, until you remember the cost laborers sweating to haul stone for his dreams, their grumbles drowned by royal decrees. You pause by the city walls, where a storyteller spins tales of Solomon's judgment. The crowd's entranced, but you catch a skeptic muttering about too much hype. It's a reminder. Wisdom doesn't solve everything. Solomon's gift is real, but it's also a spotlight, exposing his flaws as much as his strengths. You recall that donkey case. His ruling was fair, but the loser's glare lingered, a spark of resentment. How many sparks before a fire? As night falls, you sit on a rooftop, the city's lamps flickering below. Solomon's wisdom is a beacon, but you sense its limits. He's building a golden age, yet every choice, every wife, every tax, every judgment adds weight to his crown. You're eager to see the temple next, to stand in the heart of his ambition. For now, you breathe in the cool air, the scent of olives and promise, wondering how long this brilliance can last. You stand in Jerusalem's heart, where the air hums with chisels and sweat. Solomon's temple rises before you, a colossus of stone and cedar that makes your neck ache just looking up. Dust swirls, catching the sun, and you smell resin and ambition. This isn't just a building. It's Solomon's obsession, his bid to etch his name into eternity. You're close enough to hear the laborers' grunts, their Hebrew mingling with Phoenician curses. The temple's a marvel, but you sense the cost, the cracks hidden beneath its golden veneer. Solomon's wisdom built this, but his pride might. Haunted. The mainstream fact is undeniable. 1 Kings 6 details the temple's construction, a 7-year feat blending Israelite faith with Phoenician craftsmanship. You trace the walls with your eyes, limestone quarried nearby, cedar from Lebanon's forests, all fitted without a single hammer's clang near the site. It's a logistical miracle. You imagine Solomon pacing the plans, his mind juggling measurements. And miracles. The Holy of Holies, a cube veiled in darkness, will house the Ark of the Covenant. You feel its weight, a sacred anchor for a nation still finding its soul. But here's the quirky tidbit. Some Talmudic tales claim the temple's stones moved themselves, guided by divine will or Solomon's mystic ring. Picture it: boulders, floating like clouds, slotting into place while workers gape. Pure myth? Probably, but you smirk, imagining a foreman yelling, "Oi, that rock's off by an inch," as it hovers. Joke 1. If stones really flew, Solomon could have started the world's first magical construction startup. You step closer, dodging a cart of olive wood beams. The temple's scale stuns 60 cubits long, 20 wide, with gold overlay that blinds in the noon sun. You hear Hiram, the Phoenician architect, barking orders. His crew carves cherubim and palm trees into panels, a nod to Eden's lost glory. You're awed, but uneasy. This splendor screams wealth, and wealth screams taxes. The people love their God, but they're grumbling about empty granaries. You catch a laborer muttering, "Fancy temple, but my kids eat dirt." It's a jab that stings. Historians still argue whether the temple was Solomon's triumph or his ego's altar. Did it unify Israel's tribes, or did it alienate them, planting seeds of rebellion? You ponder this, running your hand over a smooth pillar. The craftsmanship's flawless, but the human toll forced labor, conscripted tribes hangs like a shadow. You recall Section 1's farmer, griping about taxes. He's probably out there now, hauling stone instead of harvesting barley. Callbacks like these tie the story together, don't they? Just like Solomon's trying to tie his kingdom. You slip inside, where the air's cooler, scented with myrrh. The sanctuary's half built, but you visualize its future gold lamps. The showbread table, priests chanting psalms. Solomon's there, inspecting a frieze. His face is calm, but his fingers twitch, betraying nerves. This temple's his legacy, his proof he's more than David's son. You admire the drive, but it feels desperate, like he's shouting, "Look at me," to God and man alike. Joke 2. If his temple gets any shinier, sailors in Egypt will need sunglasses. Outside, you mingle with the crowd merchants, priests, and gawkers from Judah. They're proud, but whispers of discontent ripple. David fought for us, one says. Solomon just builds. It's unfair, but you get it. David was a warrior. Solomon's a dreamer. His wisdom solves disputes, but can it soothe a nation's pride? You recall Section 2's baby cases. Cleverness won hearts, but a temple's not a courtroom. It's a symbol, and symbols cut both ways. A quirky detail surfaces. Some say Solomon hid a secret chamber beneath the temple, a vault for sacred relics, or maybe his own doubts. You picture him sneaking down there at night, scribbling proverbs on clay. Better a dry crust with peace than a house full of feasting with strife. It's poetic, but you wonder if he believes it. His feasts are lavish, his wives multiplying Egyptian, Sidonian, more every year. Each marriage seals a trade deal, but you sense the strain. How many alliances before his heart frays? You climb a scaffold, the city sprawling below. Jerusalem's thriving markets buzz. Caravans roll in from Sheba and beyond. The temples, a magnet, drawing wealth and worship. But you spot conscripts trudging home, their faces gaunt. Solomon's wisdom planned this marvel, but his ambition drives the whip. You think of that animal-talking tale from Section 2. If he could hear oxen now, they'd probably moan about overtime. Joke 3. His temple's so grand, even the goats are demanding a union dot as dusk falls. You sit by a quarry, the temple's silhouette glowing. It's beautiful, but heavy, like Solomon's crown. You feel his dream unite Israel, honor God, outshine the past. But every stone laid is a choice, and choices ripple. The people cheer now, but you hear distant murmurs, like storm clouds, gathering. You're ready to follow Solomon's next step, to see how his wealth shapes or breaks his reign. For now you rest, the scent of cedar lingering, the weight of glory pressing down. Section 4, you're swept into Jerusalem's golden haze, where Solomon's wealth glitters like a mirage. The city pulses with trade camels groan under spice sacks. Merchants shout over clinking coins. You smell saffron and ambition, but beneath the shine you sense cracks forming. Solomon's empire is a juggernaut, his coffers overflowing, yet every gem, every chariot, weighs on the kingdom's bones. You walk beside him, his robes heavy with gold thread, and wonder, is this prosperity? Or a gilded cage? Mainstream history, drawn from 1 Kings 10, paints Solomon's wealth as legendary gold from Ophir, cedar from Lebanon, tribute from vassal states. You see it firsthand. His palace, a sprawl of ivory and marble, dwarfs the temple from Section 3. Servants pour wine from silver jugs, and you count 500 shields of beaten gold lining his halls. It's obscene, intoxicating. His trade network spans Egypt to Tarshish, ships docking with apes, peacocks, and enough incense to choke a prophet. You're dazzled, but the math doesn't add up. How many farmers' taxes fund 1 peacock? Here's the quirky tidbit. Some ancient texts claim Solomon's throne was rigged with mechanical traps to scare off challengers, like a proto-James Bond gadget. Picture lions roaring, steps shifting underfoot. Pure fable? Maybe, but you grin, imagining. A cocky envoy tripping over a hidden spring. Joke 1. If his throne was that tricky, his court was basically a game show with higher stakes. You trail Solomon through the market, where stalls brim with myrrh and lapis lazuli. He's a master of commerce, his wisdom turning deals into dominance. You overhear a Tyrian trader praising his tariff shrewd, not greedy. But the locals aren't smiling. A baker mutters, gold for him, crumbs for us. You recall Section 1's grumbling farmer, his sarcasm about taxes. The callback stings Solomon's. Wealth is a rising tide, but not all boats are floating. The tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, already prickly, send fewer tithes, their loyalty thinning. Historians still argue whether Solomon's opulence strengthened Israel or sowed division. Did his trade empire unify the nation, or did it alienate? The northern tribes, who saw Jerusalem as a leech. You ponder this, fingering a gold coin stamped with a lion. It's heavy, like the kingdom's mood. Solomon's not blind. He knows wealth buys power, but also envy. You see him at a banquet, toasting Hittite envoys, his laugh warm, but his eyes sharp. He's playing a long game, but the board's getting crowded. You slip into his treasury, where chests overflow with tribute. A quirky detail catches your ear. Some say Solomon's scribes invented an early accounting system, tracking gold to the shekel. You picture him geeking out over ledgers, a nerd with a crown. It's charming until you remember the human cost laborers, conscripted for his mines, their hands blistered for his glory. You recall Section 3's temple workers, their gaunt faces. The wealth piling up here started there, in sweat and stone. You pause by a stable where 12,000 horses snort and stamp. Solomon's chariot force is unmatched, a flex against Egypt and Assyria. But you overhear a groom whisper about feed costs horses eat better than villagers. Joke 2. His stables are so fancy, the mules are demanding silk blankets. The extravagance is a shield, projecting strength, but it's also a target. You sense unrest brewing, like a pot left too long on the fire dot at night. You climb a hill, overlooking the city. Torches wink below, and you spot Solomon's palace, lit like a star. His wives' hundreds now fill its wings, their laughter drifting. Each marriage, from Moab to Edom, cements an alliance, but you wonder about the strain. Does he love them, or are they just contracts? You think back to Section 2's lonely Solomon, staring at the stars. Wealth hasn't filled that void. It's just dressed it up. A storyteller by the gate spins tales of Solomon's riches, but a heckler cuts in. Riches don't last. It's a warning, and you feel its truth. The kingdom's fat, but brittle. You recall Section 2's proverb. Gentle answer turns away wrath. Solomon's wealth isn't gentle. It's loud and wrath stirring. Joke 3. His gold so plentiful, even the pigeons are building nests with it. You sit by a fountain, its splash mingling with distant music. Solomon's created a paradise, but it's fragile. Every ingot, every horse, every jeweled cup is a choice, and choices have shadows. You're ready to follow the Queen of Sheba's visit next, to see how Solomon's wealth holds up under her scrutiny. For now, you rest, the weight of gold heavy in the air, a scent of myrrh fading into doubt. You're in Jerusalem's blazing sun, the air thick with dust and anticipation. A caravan stretches across the horizon, camels swaying under silk-draped loads. The Queen of Sheba has arrived, her presence a magnet for whispers. You smell frankincense, and intrigue as she steps down, her eyes sharp, her gold jewelry glinting. She's here to test Solomon, to see if his wisdom matches the hype. You follow her into his court. Heart racing, this is no ordinary visit. It's a high-stakes duel of wits, and you're front row for the showdown. Mainstream history, rooted in 1 Kings 10, confirms the Queen's visit. A diplomatic mission, blending trade talks and intellectual sparring. You watch her glide into Solomon's throne room, a cavern of gold and cedar. Her retinue carries gift spices, gems, and 120 talents of gold, enough to make your jaw drop. Solomon rises, his smile polite but guarded. She's not just a queen. She's a rival, her Arabian kingdom a trade powerhouse. You feel the tension, like 2 chess masters circling the board. Her first question lands like a dart, a riddle about wealth and justice, veiled in poetry. Solomon answers smoothly, his voice low, unraveling her words with ease. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Ethiopian traditions claim the queen, called Makeda, didn't just test Solomon's mind, she left with his child, founding a royal line. Picture the gossip. A royal fling under Jerusalem's stars. True? Doubtful, but you smirk, imagining scribes scrambling to hush it up. Joke 1. If they had a kid, the baby's first word was probably riddle. You linger in the court, where the air hums with her questions. Philosophy, botany, even astronomy. Solomon's answers dazzle, his wisdom a blade slicing through ambiguity. You're impressed, but you notice her probing deeper, testing his character. She asks about his wealth, his wives, his God. His responses are polished, but you catch a flicker in his eyes. Does he doubt himself? You recall Section 2's lonely Solomon, burdened by perception. This queen sees through the gold, and it unnerves him. Historians still argue whether the queen's visit was purely diplomatic or a subtle power play. Did she come to ally with Solomon, or to size up a rival before her kingdom outgrew his? You ponder this, watching her gift him a ruby the size of a fig. It's a gesture, but also a flex her wealth rivals his, as seen in Section 4's overflowing treasury. The room buzzes with courtiers, their whispers a mix of awe and envy. You hear a servant mutter, "She's trouble." He's not wrong. You follow them to a banquet, where tables groan under roasted lamb and honeyed figs. The queen's charm is lethal. She laughs at Solomon's proverbs, but her questions keep coming, each a trap. He navigates them, quoting, "Better a patient person than a warrior." You admire his cool, but you sense her pushing, searching for weakness. A quirky detail surfaces. Some say she tested him with the trick boys and girls dressed alike, asking him to tell them apart. He supposedly solved it by offering sweets, watching who grabbed first. You chuckle, picturing her face as he nailed it. The city's alive with her visit. You walk markets where traders hawk Sheba-approved spices, cashing in on the hype. But you hear grumbles. Two locals resent the fanfare, their taxes fueling this spectacle. You think back to Section 3's laborers, sweating for Solomon's dreams. The queen's gold won't feed their kids. Joke 2. Her caravan's so lavish, even the camels are filing for overtime. At night, you stand by the palace, torches flickering. The queen and Solomon talk late, their voices soft through latticed windows. You wonder what they share, trade secrets, or something human. She's a mirror, reflecting his brilliance and his flaws. You recall Section 1's Bathsheba, another strong woman shaping his path. But this queen's different. She's an equal, and it shakes him. You feel his unease. A king used to control, now facing scrutiny. As her caravan prepares to leave, watch her gift Solomon a final riddle, her smile cryptic. He solves it, but she nods, unimpressed, as if saying, "Not bad, but I'm watching." She departs, leaving Jerusalem richer but restless. You hear a priest mutter about pagan influence, a hint of trouble brewing. Joke 3. Her visit was so intense, the scribes needed a nap before writing it down. You sit by the city gate, the scent of her spices lingering. The queen's tested Solomon's wisdom, but also exposed his limits. Wealth and wit can't hide. A kingdom's fraying edges. You're ready to explore his harem next, where love and politics collide. For now, you rest, the weight of her gaze heavy, the echo of riddles fading into the night. You slip into the perfumed haze of Solomon's palace, where silk curtains sway and laughter echoes. His harem sprawls across a wing, a labyrinth of beauty and ambition. You're surrounded by hundreds of women princesses, nobles, daughters of distant kings, each a thread in Solomon's web of alliances. The air smells of jasmine and power, but you sense danger, a tangle of love and politics ready to snare. You're here to uncover what these women mean to Solomon, and why their presence feels like a storm brewing. Mainstream history, from 1 Kings 11, notes Solomon's 700 wives and 300 concubines, a staggering tally tying his reign to foreign treaties. You see them now, Egyptian women with kohl-lined eyes, Moabites draped in crimson, Ammonites whispering in their tongue. Each marriage seals a deal, from trade routes to military pacts. You watch Solomon navigate this court, his charm effortless as he greets a Sidonian bride, but his eyes dart, calculating. These women aren't just partners, They are diplomats, spies, leverage. You feel the weight of his strategy. Brilliant, but brittle. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some legends claim Solomon's harem included a demoness, a sultry spirit he tamed with his mystic ring. Picture her, all smoke and allure, flirting over a chessboard. Pure myth, but you grin, imagining him explaining that to his scribes. Joke 1. If a demoness was real, she probably ran the harem's HR department. You wander deeper, past courtyards where fountains splash and lutes hum. The women live in luxury marble floors, gold combs, servants fanning them with peacock feathers. But you catch their glances, sharp with rivalry. An Egyptian princess argues over precedence with a Hittite, their voices low but venomous. You? Recall Section 5's Queen of Sheba, her probing gaze. These wives aren't as bold, but they're no less cunning, each vying for influence. You wonder how Solomon sleeps, knowing every smile hides an agenda. Historians still argue whether Solomon's harem stabilized his empire or fractured it. Did these marriages secure peace, or did they import foreign loyalties, eroding Israel's core? You ponder this, watching a Moabite woman offer Solomon a gift, a ruby pendant, suspiciously like a bribe. His wealth, from Section 4, funds this opulence, but at what cost? The tribes grumble, their taxes gilding foreign brides while villages starve. You hear a servant mutter, more wives, less bread. It echoes Section 3's labors, their resentment growing. You pause by a balcony, where a young Edomite wife gazes at the stars. She's beautiful, but lonely, her accent thick as she hums a song from home. You realize Solomon's harem isn't just political, it's human. These women, plucked from their lands, are pawns in his game. Does he care for them? Or are they names on a treaty? You think back to Section 2's lonely Solomon, his wisdom a shield against doubt. Here, that shield thin. Joke 2, his harem's so big, he probably schedules cuddles with a sundial. A quirky detail surfaces. Some say Solomon wrote love poetry for his wives, like the Song of Songs, though scholars debate if it's his. You imagine him scribbling? Your neck is like an ivory tower, and wincing at a diplomatic typo. It's romantic until you see the reality-wise plotting. Their children hide as heirs or threats. You overhear a priest whisper about pagan altars in the harem, a hint of trouble from foreign faiths. It's a spark, and you sense it could ignite. You follow Solomon to a feast where his wives shine like jewels. He toasts them, quoting, "Many waters cannot quench love." The room claps, but you notice a Canaanite wife's smirk, her hand on a charmed knot of Yahweh. His wisdom sees through lies, but can it manage this mosaic of motives? You recall Section 1's ruthless Solomon, killing Adonijah. That steel is here, but softened, tangled in affection or obligation. You feel his strain, a king stretched thin by his own ambition. At night, you sit by a garden, the harem's laughter distant. A guard grumbles about too many queens, his tone bitter. The kingdom's wealth buys silk, but not loyalty. You think of Section 4's heckler, warning riches don't last. The harem's a microcosm dazzling, but unstable. Joke 3. If Solomon's wives unionized, they'd have him negotiating peace treaties with his own bedroom. You rest, the scent of myrrh heavy. Solomon's harem is a masterpiece of diplomacy, but also a minefield. Every kiss, every alliance, risks his heart and his throne. You're ready to explore his foreign ties next, where allies and enemies blur. For now, you linger, the weight of 1,000 gazes pressing down, the echo of lutes fading into unease. You're swept into the bustling courts of Jerusalem, where diplomats in bright robes weave through Solomon's palace like threads in a loom. The air smells of ink and ambition, heavy with the weight of treaties and promises. You stand beside Solomon, his eyes scanning envoys from Tyre, Egypt, and beyond, each offering smiles that hide daggers. His web of alliances spans empires, but you sense the tightrope he walks. Every friend could turn foe. You're here to navigate this dance of power, where betrayal lurks behind every handshake. Mainstream history. From 1 Kings 4 and 9, highlights Solomon's diplomatic prowess, forging peace with neighbors through trade and marriage. You see it now. Phoenician ships dock with cedar, Egyptian chariots roll in with grain, all sealed by Solomon's deals. He hosts a Tyrian prince, their laughter echoing over wine, but his hand rests near a scroll terms of a trade pact, precise to the shekel. You admire his finesse, turning rivals into partners. His wisdom, from section 2, reads motives like a map keeping Israel's borders quiet. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some legends say Solomon used magic to charm envoys, his ring bending their wills. Picture him twirling it, hypnotizing a Hittite with a wink. Pure fantasy, but you chuckle, imagining a diplomat signing a bad deal dazed. Joke 1. If his ring worked, he could have sold sand to Egypt and called it a win. You move through the palace, where scribes record treaties on clay. Solomon's alliances are a shield. Tyre builds his navy. Egypt supplies horses. Aram pays tribute. You recall Section 4's 12,000 horses, their feed bleeding the treasury. These pacts fund his grandeur, but they're fragile. You overhear an Egyptian envoy whisper about Israel's soft underbelly. It's a jab, and you wonder if Solomon hears it too. His smile never falters, but his fingers tap, betraying nerves. Historians still argue whether Solomon's alliances were a golden age or a house of cards. Did they secure Israel's dominance, or did they make him too dependent, a king tethered to foreign whims? You ponder this, watching a Moabite ambassador gift him a bronze statue. It's stunning, but you recall Section 6's harem, where Moabite wives brought pagan charms. Alliances bring wealth, but also influence, and not all of it aligns with Yahweh. You sense a fault line forming. You pause in a courtyard where a Phoenician trader boasts about Solomon's ports. Trade flow spices from Sheba, gold from Overbought. You hear a local merchant grumble. Foreigners get rich, we get taxes. It echoes Section 3's laborers, their sweat fueling this empire. The tribes, especially in the north, resent Jerusalem's cosmopolitan glow. You think back to Section 1's grumbling farmer, his sarcasm about golden calves. A callback. Bite Solomon's allies strengthen him, but alienate his own. A quirky detail surfaces. Some say Solomon hosted riddle contests with envoys, like Section 5's Queen of Sheba, to seal deals. You imagine him stumping a Hittite with a brain twister about camels and wells, laughter masking the stakes. It's clever diplomacy, but risky if he lost. So did his aura. You see him now, toasting an Aramean, quoting, "A friend loves at all times." The room claps, but you notice the Aramean's tight smile. Is he loyal or biding time? You follow Solomon to a war council, where maps sprawl across tables. His allies deter invasion, but you sense threats Assyria's growing, Egypt's fickle. He stations garrisons, funded by Section 4's gold, but you hear a general mutter about overstretched lines. Job 2. His alliances are so tangled, he needs a flowchart to track who's not stabbing him in the back. At night, you stand by the city walls, torches flickering. Solomon meets a shadowy figure, a spy maybe, reporting on Edom's unrest. His wisdom spots betrayal, but can it outrun it? You recall Section 2's baby case, his knack for truth. Here, truth is murkier, allies and enemies blurring. You hear a guard whisper about too many foreigners, his tone sour. The kingdom's strong, but its heart's divided. You sit by a gate, the scent of cedar faint. Solomon's alliances are a masterpiece, but every treaty, every gift, risks his sovereignty. You think of Section 5's queen, her cryptic smile. These envoys aren't so different, testing him, weighing his strength. Joke 3. His diplomatic feasts are so tense, the bread's probably spiked with anxiety. You rest, the weight of unseen blades heavy. Solomon's built a network to rival empires, but it's a gamble, each ally a potential spark. You're ready to explore his faith's wavering next, where foreign gods creep in. For now, you linger, the echo of clinking goblets fading into suspicion. You wander Jerusalem's twilight, where the scent of incense mingles with unease. Solomon's palace glows, but beyond its walls, strange altars flicker on hilltop shrines to foreign gods, their names whispered: Ashtoreth, Chemosh, Molech. You feel a chill, sensing Solomon's faith waver, pulled by the women of his harem. The air hums with chants not of Yahweh, and you're here to see how a king blessed with wisdom drifts toward idolatry, his heart divided by love and power. Mainstream. History from 1 Kings 11 confirms Solomon's slide into idolatry, influenced by his foreign wives. You see it now. A Moabite princess kneels at a shrine, her offering of myrrh curling into the dusk. Solomon stands nearby, not praying, but watching, his face unreadable. His 700 wives, from Section 6, were meant to seal alliances, but they've brought their gods, statues, rituals, and whispers of rival faiths. You recall Section 7's treaties, how foreign influence seeped into his court. This is deeper, a spiritual fracture threatening Israel's core. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some apocryphal texts claim Solomon built a secret temple for a wife's goddess, hidden in Jerusalem's hills. Picture him supervising stonemasons. At midnight, muttering, "Don't tell the priests." Likely fiction, but you smirk, imagining him dodging Yahweh's lightning bolts. Joke 1. If he built that temple, he probably built it as a cultural exchange program. You slip closer, past a cedar grove where an Ammonite wife burns herbs to Milcom. Solomon's there, his crown glinting, not stopping her. His wisdom from Section 2 once cut through lies, but here it bends, softened by affection or diplomacy. You feel his conflict. He loves these women, or at least their alliances, from Section 7. But their gods demand loyalty, and he's compromising, offering gold for their altars. You sense the danger. Israel's covenant with Yahweh is exclusive, and this flirtation could unravel it all. Historians still argue whether Solomon's idolatry was personal devotion or political appeasement. Did he worship these gods, or just tolerate them to keep his harem happy? You ponder this, watching him gift a Sidonian wife a silver idol of Ashtoreth. It's a small act, but heavy, like a stone dropped in a still pond. The ripples reach the G. People priests scowl, prophets mutter, and you hear a Levite whisper. The king's heart turns. It echoes Section 4's heckler, warning riches don't last. Faith, it seems, is just as fragile. You walk Jerusalem's streets, where Yahweh's temple, from Section 3, looms as a reminder of Solomon's early zeal. But now, high places dot the hills, their smoke a defiance. You recall Section 5's queen. Of Sheba, her pagan charm. These wives are closer, their influence constant. A quirky detail surfaces. Some say Solomon debated theology with his wives, trying to syncretize their gods with his. You imagine him arguing, Chemosh is just Yahweh with a bad haircut, and wincing at his own heresy. It's a fleeting image, but it humanizes him, a king wrestling with belief. You pause by a market, where a vendor sells tiny idols, muttering about royal tastes. The people notice Solomon's leniency, and some follow suit, hedging bets with foreign charms. You feel the shift, Israel's unity, tied to one God, phrase. You think back to Section 1's tribes, already restless under taxes. Now their faith wavers too, and you sense rebellion brewing, its spark not yet lit, but glowing out at night. You stand by an altar, its embers warm. Solomon's nearby, alone, staring at the stars. You wonder what he sees, God's promise, or his own doubts. His proverb, fear God and keep his commandments, feels distant now. You recall Section 2's dream, where God granted wisdom. Did he warn of this? Solomon's harem, his wealth, his allies, all from earlier sections, pull him from that vision. Joke 2. His altars are so diverse, he's running a spiritual flea market. You hear a prophet's voice, faint but sharp, warning of judgment. It's a whisper, but it carries, like wind before a storm. Solomon's wisdom still rules his court, but his heart's a battleground. You see a Hittite wife approach, her smile soft, her God's name on her lips. He doesn't turn away. You feel the weight of his choice, a king trading covenant for compromise. You sit by the city wall, the scent of myrrh fading. Solomon's idolatry isn't blatant, he's no idol-worshipping zealot, but it's a drift, a slow leak in his soul. You think of Section 6's lonely Edomite wife, her song of home. These women are his strength and his undoing. Joke 3. His harem's gods are so chatty, Yahweh probably needs earplugs. You rest, the weight of divided loyalties heavy. Solomon's faith, once a beacon, now flickers, and his kingdom feels the tremor. You're ready to explore rebellion's spark. Next, where discontent ignites. For now, you linger, the echo of alien prayers fading into the night. You tread Jerusalem's restless streets, where the air crackles with whispers of defiance. The sun sinks, casting long shadows, and you smell sweat and discontent. Solomon's kingdom, once a golden dream, frays at the edges, taxes crush, foreign. Gods creep, and now rebellion stirs. You're amid the crowds, hearing murmurs of names like Jeroboam, a spark ready to ignite. Solomon's wisdom holds the throne, but you sense his grip slipping, the weight of his choices pressing down. You're here to witness the fire's first flickered out mainstream history, from 1 Kings 11, records the seeds of revolt, with figures like Jeroboam rising against Solomon's rule. You see him now, a young Ephraimite, broad-shouldered, eyes burning, as he rallies workers in the north. He's no mere troublemaker, he's a foreman, trusted once, now bitter. Solomon's projects, like Section 3's temple, rely on forced labor, and Jeroboam's tribe chafes under the yoke. You hear him speak, voice low but fierce. Why toil for a king who forgets us? The crowd nods, their grumbles echoing Section 1's farmer, his sarcasm about taxes now a battle cry. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Midrashim claim Jeroboam was prophesied to split the kingdom, marked by a torn cloak, before he even rebelled. Picture a prophet ripping fabric dramatically, Jeroboam blinking like, my tailor's gonna hate this. Likely embellished, but you smirk, imagining him keeping the scraps as a rebel badge. Joke 1. If prophecies came with wardrobe damage, Jeroboam's cloak was the first casualty. You slip through the city, past markets where vendors hush their talk. Solomon's spies are everywhere, but so is unrest. You recall Section 4's baker, muttering about crumbs. Now, its worst northern tribes, like Ephraim and Manasseh, hoard grain, defying Jerusalem's tax collectors. You see a scuffle. A royal officer, robes torn, flees a mob. It's small, but telling. Solomon's wealth, from Section 4, buys armies, but not loyalty. His harem, from Section 6, and their gods, from Section 8, alienate the pious. The kingdom's a powder keg, and Jeroboam's lighting the fuse. Historians still argue whether Solomon's policies sparked rebellion, or if tribal rivalries, simmering since David, were inevitable. Did his heavy taxes and foreign ties break Israel, or was unity always a mirage? You ponder this, watching Jeroboam slip into a tavern, plotting with elders. His charisma's dangerous, a mirror to Solomon's younger self from Section 1, but angrier. You feel the irony. Solomon crushed Adonijah, yet hews a new rival, born of his own excess. You pause by a quarry where laborers hack stone for another palace. Their faces are gaunt, their curses sharp. You recall Section 3's conscripts, their resentment now a roar. A quirky detail surfaces. Some say Jeroboam rallied men with a song, mocking Solomon's gold as chains for the poor. You imagine them chanting, tools down, defiance rising. It's a spark, and you see Solomon's governor Adoram, Titan patrols, his face grim. The king's wisdom, from Section 2, spots the threat, but can it quench this fire? You follow Jeroboam to a hill where he meets a prophet, Ahijah, under starlight. The prophet's words are fire. God will tear the kingdom from Solomon's son. You feel the weight, a divine verdict on Solomon's drift. You think back to Section 8's altars, the idols creeping in. This rebellion isn't just political, it's spiritual, a judgment on a king who bent too far. Jeroboam's eyes gleam, his path set. You wonder if Solomon knows, if his spies whisper this betrayal at night. You stand by the city gates, where a merchant mutters about trouble in the north. Solomon's court still shines, but you hear of him fortifying cities. His chariots from Section 4, on alert. His proverb, a prudent man sees danger and hides, feels hollow now he sees, but can't hide. You recall Section 7's spy, warning of Edom's unrest. Now it's closer, in Israel's heart. Job 2, his kingdom so shaky, even the pigeons are picking sides. You sit by a well, the air heavy with dust. Jeroboam's rebellion is a whisper, but growing, fed by every tax, every altar, every choice Solomon made. You think of Section 5's queen, her probing gaze. Would she see this coming? Solomon's allies from Section 7 won't help here. This is internal, a wound self-inflicted. You hear a boy sing Jeroboam's song, defiant and catchy. Joke 3. If rebels have a hit single, Solomon's propaganda team needs a better bard. You rest, the weight of division heavy. Solomon's reign, once a beacon, now flickers, and rebellion's spark threatens to burn it down. You're ready to explore his justice next, where wisdom meets cruelty. For now, you linger, the echo of chants fading into the night, the scent of smoke rising. You stand in Solomon's throne room, the air thick with tension and the scent of polished cedar. Petitioners shuffle forward, their voices low, eyes darting. Solomon sits high, his gold throne gleaming, but his gaze is steel wisdom sharpened. To a blade, you're here to witness his justice, where rulings blend brilliance with a chilling edge. The kingdom teeters, rebellion stirring from Section 9, and every judgment now feels like a test. You lean in, heart pounding, as his next case unfolds, knowing his choices could steady or shatter Israel. Mainstream history, from 1 Kings 3 and 4, portrays Solomon's judgments as a hallmark of his divine wisdom. You see it now. A merchant accuses another of stealing a caravan's worth of myrrh. The room hushes as Solomon listens, his fingers tracing his ring, maybe that mystic one from Section 1's lore. He questions both, voice calm, then rules. The thief repays double, plus a public apology. It's fair, swift, and the crowd murmurs. Approval. You recall Section 2's baby case, his knack for truth. Here, it's honed, a scalpel cutting through lies. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Talmudic tales claim Solomon judged animals, settling disputes between sparrows or wolves. Picture him arbitrating a fox's theft of a hen, straight-faced. Pure fable, but you grin, imagining a crow squawking its defense. Joke 1. If he judged wildlife, his court was the original Animal Court TV. You linger watching case after case land. Disputes, debts, a bizarre claim about a cursed goat. Solomon's rulings are precise, often merciful, but there's a shift. A northern elder from Ephraim contests a tax levy, voice bold, Solomon's eyes narrow. He doubles the fine, citing defiance. The elder leaves, face dark, and you feel the chill. His wisdom from Section 2 sees rebellion's shadow from Section 9, and his justice now carries a sting. You recall Section 4's grumbling baker taxes fuel this court, but also resentment. Historians still argue whether Solomon's harsh rulings quelled dissent or fanned it. Did his severity preserve order, or did it push tribes like Ephraim toward Jeroboam's banner? You ponder this, watching a thief sentenced to labor in the mines. It's just but brutal, his family's wails echoing. You think of Section 3's conscripts, their sweat building Solomon's dreams. His justice mirrors his reign brilliant, but heavy, each verdict a stone in a crumbling wall. You move to a balcony, overlooking Jerusalem. Below, a crowd debates Solomon's latest ruling. A traitor, caught aiding Jeroboam, executed swiftly. You recall Section 1's Adonijah, killed without hesitation. That ruthlessness is back, but now it feels desperate. A quirky detail surfaces. Some say Solomon's throne had steps that shifted, testing petitioners' nerve. You imagine the traitor stumbling, Solomon's stare unyielding. It's a metaphor his justice demands balance, but one misstep means ruin. You slip back inside, where a widow pleads for her son, jailed for theft. Solomon listens, then frees him, citing her poverty. The room softens, but you notice guards, eyeing the crowd, hands on swords. His mercy selective, his cruelty strategic. You think of Section 8's idols, how he bent for his wives. Here, he bends less, his proverb. Justice exalts a nation, a mantra. But you wonder, whose nation? The North's loyalty phrase, and his rulings aren't soothing at night. You walk the palace halls, where scribes record verdicts. A servant mutters about too many deaths, his tone bitter. You recall Section 7's spy, warning of unrest. Solomon's justice holds Jerusalem, but the North hears only the whip. You see him alone, staring at a scroll, his face tired. His wisdom solves cases, but not the kingdom's heart. Joke 2, his court's so busy, he could sell tickets too. Justice with Solomon. Leave. You pause by a fountain, its splash mingling with distant shouts. A minor riot tax protesters, dispersed harshly. Solomon's justice is a double-edged sword, cutting truth, but also trust. You think of Section 5's queen, her probing gaze, wood. She approved this hardness? His allies from Section 7 care little for internal strife, leaving him exposed. You hear a child mimic Solomon's voice, sentencing a toy to the mines. It's cute, but grim. Joke 3. If kids play judge, Solomon's legacy is half ruling, half nightmare. You rest, the weight of his gavel heavy. Solomon's justice, once a beacon, now casts shadows, each verdict a gamble against rebellion's tide. You're ready to weigh his legacy next, where triumphs meet cracks. For now, you linger, the echo of pleas fading, the scent of cedar sharp with judgment. You wander Jerusalem's golden streets, where Solomon's reign shines like polished bronze, yet cracks spiderweb beneath the surface. The city hums markets overflow. The temple from Section 3 gleams, but whispers of rebellion from Section 9 linger. You're here to weigh Solomon's legacy, his triumphs stacked against the fractures his choices carved. His wisdom, wealth, and justice have built an empire, but you sense the cost, a kingdom teetering on the edge of its own glory. You step closer, ready to measure the man against his myth-mainstream history. From 1 Kings and 2 Chronicles, laud Solomon's achievements, the temple, trade networks, and a peace unmatched in Israel's history. You see it now caravans from Section 4's Ophir unload gold, Phoenician ships dock with cedar, and his proverbs from Section 2 echo in scribes' halls. The temple stands as his crown, a symbol of faith and power. You walk its courts, smelling myrrh, hearing psalms. His wealth funds schools, roads, and garrisons, making Israel a beacon from Egypt to Aram. You're awed, but the shine feels fragile, like glass under strain. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some legends claim Solomon's throne was carried to heaven after his death, a divine trophy. Picture angels lugging that gold monstrosity, groaning about back pain. Pure myth, but you smirk, imagining it parked next to a cloud. Joke 1. If heaven took his throne, they probably charged him for extra baggage. You move through the palace, where envoys still toast Solomon's name, their gifts piling high. His alliances, from Section 7, keep enemies at bay, and his justice, from Section 10, holds Jerusalem's order. You recall Section 5's Queen of Sheba, her nod of respect. His legacy seems ironclad wisdom incarnate, a king who turned a tribal nation into a powerhouse. But you hear the North's grumbles, louder now, echoing Section 1's farmer and Section 9's Jeroboam. Taxes, forced labor, and foreign wives from Section 6 erode loyalty. His idolatry from Section 8, Angers priests, their prayers sharp with warning. Historians still argue whether Solomon's legacy is triumph or tragedy. Did his grandeur unify Israel, or did his excesses doom it to split? You ponder this, watching laborers haul stone for another fort. Their faces, gaunt like Section 3's conscripts, tell a story his gold can't hide. His wealth, from Section 4, built marvels, but at what price? You see a northern elder slip a coin to a rebel, eyes darting. The kingdom's splendor is a facade, and Solomon's choicest wives, gods, taxes are the cracks. You pause by a market where a storyteller spins tales of Solomon's wisdom. A boy listens, wide-eyed, but his father scoffs. Wisdom doesn't feed us. It's a gut punch, echoing Section 4's heckler. A quirky detail surfaces. Some say Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes, lamenting, all is vanity. You imagine him, penning it late, his crown heavy, doubting his own hype. It's poignant, a king questioning the empire he built. You wonder if he sees the fracture, if his wisdom, from Section 2, grasps the cost. You slip into the temple, its gold walls warm. Solomon's legacy lives here, in stone and song, but you feel its shadow. His harem, from section 6, brought allies, but also idols, from section 8, alienating the faithful. His justice, from section 10, cuts sharp but breeds resentment. You recall section 7's spy, warning of unrest, now it's real. Jeroboam's name on every northern lip. Solomon's built a golden age, but it's hollowing out like a tree rotting from within. Joke 2, his legacy so shiny, it's blinding. Everyone to the termites dot at night. You climb a hill. Jerusalem's lights below. Solomon's there, alone, staring at the stars. You sense his weariness, a man who outsmarted riddles, but not fate. His proverb, a good name is better than riches, feels ironic now. His name's legendary, but his kingdom's fraying. You think of section 1's young Solomon, ruthless yet hopeful. That hope's faded, buried under gold and compromise. You sit by a gate, the scent of olives faint. A merchant mutters about dark days coming, his tone grim. Solomon's legacy is a paradox monumental, yet mortal. His temple will stand, his proverbs will echo, but his kingdom's unity won't. You recall section 5's queen, her cryptic smile. Did she foresee this? His allies from section 7 can't save him from internal rot. Joke 3, his empire's so grand, even the cracks have their own fan club. You rest, the weight of his legacy heavy. Solomon's built a marvel, but its cost threatens to bury him. You're ready to explore his mystic lore next, where magic blurs with truth. For now, you linger, the echo of psalms fading, the scent of myrrh sharp with doubt. You slip into Jerusalem's moonlit shadows, where whispers of Solomon's mystic side weave through the air like smoke. The city sleeps, but secrets hum tales of magic, demons, and a king who tamed the unseen. You smell parchment and myrrh, a palace looming as you explore the occult lore swirling around Solomon. His wisdom from section 2 was divine, but now you chase rumors of something darker, where history blurs with myth. You're here to unravel this enigma, a king who might have wielded more than proverbs. Mainstream history, rooted in one king's, stays silent on magic, focusing on Solomon's temple and reign. But apocryphal texts, like the Testament of Solomon, spin a wilder tale. You imagine him now, in a hidden chamber, poring over scrolls by lamplight. Legends say he controlled demons with a divine ring, binding them to build the temple from section 3. You picture him commanding a shadowy djinn, its eyes glowing, hauling stones while human workers slept. It's fantastical, but the idea grips you. His wisdom, perhaps, stretched beyond the mortal. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some medieval tales claim Solomon trapped demons in a brass vessel, sealed with his ring's sigil. Picture him chucking it into the sea, muttering, "Stay put." Pure folklore, but you grin, imagining fishermen snagging it and yelling, "Bad catch." Joke 1, if he bottled demons, he probably labeled them like bad wine, vintage wrath, 960 BCE. You wonder. The palace, where guards whisper of Solomon's other talents. His ring from section 1's myths surfaces again engraved with God's name. It supposedly bent spirits to his will. You recall section 8's demoness in his harem, a nod to this lore. Was she real, or a symbol of his dabbling? You see him, now quizzing a Babylonian mage, his questions sharp astrology, alchemy, the unseen. His curiosity from section 5's riddles with Sheba drives him here, but you sense danger. Magic, even rumored, could taint his holy image. Historians still argue whether Solomon's occult reputation was ancient PR or a smear by later critics. Did he wield supernatural power, Or did rivals exaggerate to discredit him? You ponder this. Passing a courtyard where a scribe sketches a star-shaped seal Solomon's, they say, for warding off evil. It's eerie, tying to Section 11's fractured legacy. His temple glorified Yahweh, but these whispers hint at a king flirting with forbidden arts. Like his idolatry from Section 8. You pause by a library, shelves stuffed with scrolls. A quirky detail emerges. Some say Solomon wrote grimoires, spellbooks. Lost to time, you imagine him scribbling to summon a jinn, add myrrh and hope, then hiding it from priests. It's a stretch, but it fits his restless mind, always probing like Section 2's botany geek naming plants. You recall Section 6's harem, where foreign wives brought strange rites. Did they teach him chants, star lore, or just spark rumors? You feel the tension his faith, once firm, now dances with shadows. You slip into a garden, where a lone figure, maybe Solomon, burns herbs under the stars. The scent's sharp, not quite holy. Legends say he spoke to spirits, like Section 10's animal tailies, but darker. You picture him bargaining with a demon for knowledge, his voice steady, wisdom outweighing fear. His proverb, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom," feels distant here. You recall Section 9's prophet, warning of judgment. If Solomon dabbled, did God see? At night, you climb a hill, Jerusalem's lamps below. Whispers of his magic spread from Section 7's envoys to Section 9's rebels, who twisted into propaganda. He's no king, he's a sorcerer. It's a blade, cutting his legitimacy. You think of Section 4's mechanical throne, another myth boosting. His aura. These tailies, true or not, shape him a king too grand for mere mortality. Joke 2. His magic rumors are so wild, even the owls are taking notes. You sit by a gate, the air cool. A merchant mutters about cursed rings, his tone half scared. Solomon's mystic lore, whether real or spun, adds weight to his reign, but also risk. You recall Section 5's queen. Her probing gaze, would she buy these tailies? His allies from Section 7 might shrug, but his people, taxed and restless, see sorcery as another sin. You hear a child hum a jinn song, eerie but catchy. Joke 3. If demons built his temple, they probably unionized for better myrrh. Rest, the weight of mystery heavy. Solomon's occult shadow, myth or not, deepens his legend, but threatens his throne. You're ready to mourn his heirs next, where his choices doom his line. For now, you linger, the echo of unseen whispers. Fading, the scent of herbs sharp with secrets. You walk Jerusalem's quiet streets, the air heavy with the scent of olives and fading glory. Solomon's reign, once a blazing sun, now casts long shadows, and his heirs his sons. His legacy stand in its dimming light. You're here to mourn the fall of his family, undone by the king's own divided heart. Rebellion simmers from Section 9. Idolatry festers from Section 8, and you sense the kingdom cracking, its future slipping through Solomon's fingers. You step closer, heart heavy, to see how his choices doom his line. Mainstream history, from 1 Kings 11 and 12, records the tragic fate of Solomon's heirs, particularly Rehoboam, his son, who inherits a fractured throne. You see Rehoboam now, a young man in the palace, his jaw set but eyes uncertain. He's Solomon's heir, born to an Ammonite wife from Section 6's harem, raised in gold but not grit. You recall Section 1's young Solomon, ruthless and sharp. Rehoboam lacks that fire, his shoulders slouched under a crown he's not ready for. The tribes, restless from Section 9's Jeroboam, watch him like hawks, Waiting for a misstep, here's the quirky tidbit. Some legends say Solomon foresaw his son's failure in a dream, a vision of a split kingdom. Picture him waking, sweating, muttering, "Kid, you're gonna tank this." Likely apocryphal, but you smirk, imagining him scribbling a parenting manual that never got read. Joke 1. If Solomon dreamed the future, he probably wished for a refund on that vision. You linger in the court where Rehoboam huddles with advisors. Solomon's still king, but aging, his voice softer, his gaze distant. You recall section 11's weary Solomon staring at stars. His wisdom from section 2 built an empire, but his excess taxes from section 4, wives from section 6, idols from section 8 have sown chaos. Rehoboam inherits this mess, a kingdom of gold and grudges. You hear elders whisper, "He's no David," echoing section 1's doubts about Solomon. The callback stings history's repeating, and not kindly. Historians still argue whether Solomon could have saved his dynasty, or if its collapse was inevitable. Did his compromises foreign gods, heavy levies, doom his heirs? Or was Israel's tribal nature too brittle for unity? You ponder this, watching Rehoboam ignore a northern envoy's plea for lighter taxes. His sneer, all arrogance, mirrors Solomon's harsh justice from section 10, but without the finesse. You feel the fracture widen. Jeroboam's rebels from section 9 gaining ground. The north's ready to bolt, and Rehoboam's clueless. You slip into a garden where a minor prince, another of Solomon's sons, plays with a wooden sword. He's carefree, unaware his father's choices section 7's risky alliances. Section 12's mystic rumors taint the crown. A quirky detail surfaces. Some say Solomon named his sons after virtues, like peace or strength, hoping to shape their fate. You imagine Rehoboam as wise too, the irony thick. It's a small hope, crushed by reality. His harem's size diluted his attention, leaving heirs unprepared. You recall section 6's lonely Edomite wife, her song of home. These sons, like her, are adrift. You pause by a market where a prophet's voice cuts through the din. The kingdom will tear. It's Ahijah from section 9, his warning now a roar. You see Rehoboam's guards tense, but the crowd listens, nodding. Solomon's idolatry from section 8 fuels this God's judgment, they say, for a king who strayed. You think of section 2's divine dream, where wisdom was gifted. Did God foresee this? A dynasty crumbling under its own weight. You feel Solomon's failure, not as a king, but as a father. His heart split by 1,000 loves at night. You climb a hill, Jerusalem's lights faint. Solomon's there alone, clutching a scroll, maybe Ecclesiastes, from section 11's doubts. His proverb, "Train up a child in the way he should go," feels hollow. Rehoboam's path is set, and it's not Solomon's. You recall section 5's Queen of Sheba, her probing gaze, would she pity this fall? His allies from section 7 won't save his son. Egypt's already eyeing Judah's wealth. You hear a boy mimic a rebel chant, Jeroboam's song from section 9. Joke 2. If Rehoboam's the heir, Solomon's dynasty needs a backup plan. You sit by a gate, the air cool. A merchant mutters about a house divided, his tone grim. Solomon's heirs carry his name but not his spark, their fate sealed by his compromises. You think of section 12's mystic lore. Did he see this in some forbidden spell? The kingdom's golden age is fading, and his family's fall is its epitaph. Joke 3. His sons are so unprepared, they'd lose a kingdom in a card game. You rest, the weight of a doomed line heavy. Solomon's legacy, grand but flawed, buries his heirs under its cracks. You're ready to confront his moral failures next, where wisdom meets reckoning. For now, you linger, the echo of a prophet's cry fading, the scent of olives sharp with loss. You stand in Jerusalem's fading glow, where the air carries the weight of Solomon's unraveling. His throne, once a beacon of wisdom, now sits heavy with moral failures, choices that stain his legend. You smell dust and regret, the cities, pulse uneven as rebellion from Section 9 and fractured heirs from Section 13 loom. You're here to confront the darkest corners of Solomon's heart, where his brilliance falters, and his compromise as idolatry, Wisest, neglect threaten to eclipse his wisdom. You step forward, ready to question the king who seemed untouchable. Mainstream history, from 1 Kings 11, lays bare Solomon's moral stumbles, particularly his idolatry and indulgence, which erode his covenant with God. You see him now, in a quiet chamber, staring at a Moabite idol, gifted by a wife from Section 6's harem. His fingers trace its curves, not in worship, but in weary resignation. His wisdom from Section 2 once cut through lies, but here it bends, tangled in love. And politics. You recall Section 8's altars, how he allowed foreign gods to creep in. That choice wasn't just diplomatic, it was a betrayal, a crack in his soul that spreads to his kingdom. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some apocryphal tales claim Solomon's moral slip began with a cursed gift, a mirror showing his flaws. Picture him glaring at it, seeing greed instead of glory. Pure myth, but you smirk, imagining him smashing it to avoid the truth. Joke 1. If that mirror was real, it probably quit after one look at his harem's bills. You wander the palace, where his excesses pile up like gold from Section 4. His 700 wives and 300 concubines from Section 6 aren't just alliances, they're a moral weight, pulling him from fidelity to God and people. You see a Hittite wife laugh, her pagan charm a lure he can't resist. His idolatry from Section 8 isn't zealous worship, but a slow drift, a king too stretched to say no. You feel his humanity love or lust clouds his judgment like any man's, but he's no common man. His failures ripple, fueling Section 9's Jeroboam, and dooming Section 13's Rehoboam. Historians still argue whether Solomon's moral failures were personal weakness or inevitable in a king juggling empires. Did his heart stray willingly, or was he trapped by his own diplomacy? You ponder this, watching him gift a Sidonian wife a shrine, his smile forced. His wealth from Section 4 buys their loyalty, but at what cost? You recall Section 3's laborers, starving for his dreams, and Section 10's harsh justice, alienating the North. His moral lapses, greed, compromise, neglect tie these threads, weaving a kingdom's unraveling. You pause by a courtyard, where a prophet's shadow lingers Ahijah. From Section 9, his warnings now a chorus. Solomon's neglect of Israel's poor, favoring foreign envoys from Section 7, breeds resentment. You hear a servant mutter, "He loves gold more than God." It echoes Section 11's heckler, doubting his legacy. A quirky detail surfaces. Some say Solomon's proverbs, like wealth gained hastily, will dwindle, were self-rebukes written in guilt. You imagine him scrawling, pen shaking, knowing his empire is built on sand. You slip into the temple. From Section 3, its gold dimmed by his sins. His wisdom once shone here, but now his failures cast shadows. Idolatry alienates priests. Excess starves the poor, and his harem's influence muddies his faith. You recall Section 5's Queen of Sheba, her probing gaze. Would she scorn this? Solomon, his moral compass spinning? His justice, from section 10, grows cruel to mask weakness, but it can't hide his divided heart. You feel his tragedy a king who sees truth but chooses compromise. At night, you climb a hill. Jerusalem's lights faint. Solomon's alone, staring at a scroll, maybe Ecclesiastes, from section 11, lamenting vanity. His proverb, guard. Your heart feels like a plea to himself, ignored. You think of section 12's mystic lore. Did he seek answers in forbidden arts, chasing redemption? His allies from section 7 care little for his soul. His rebels from section 9 exploit. His flaws. You hear a child hum a rebel tune, defiant. Job 2. His moral slips are so loud, even the stars are gossiping. You sit by a gate, the air cool. A merchant mutters about a king lost, his tone bitter. Solomon's failures, greed, idolatry, neglect aren't just personal. There, a kingdom's fracture, setting the stage for collapse. You recall section 1's ruthless Solomon, crushing Adonijah. That fire's gone, replaced by a man drowning in his own choices. You sense the end nearing, his empire's weight crushing. Him. Job 3. His heart so divided, it needs its own peace treaty. You rest, the weight of his flaws heavy. Solomon's wisdom, once divine, now battles his human failings, and the kingdom pays the price. You're ready to watch his final days. Next, where his light fades. For now, you linger, the echo of his proverbs fading, the scent of myrrh sharp with regret. You drift through Jerusalem's twilight, where the air feels thin, heavy with the scent of cedar and finality. Solomon, now old, moves slowly, his crown a burden on graying temples. The city's golden sheen, from section 4, fades. Rebellion, from section 9, and moral failures from section 14 cast long shadows. You're here to watch his final days as his empire teeters and his light dims. Every choice wives, idols, taxes has led to this, a king facing the end of his reign and the fracture of his dream. You step closer, heart heavy, to witness his last moments. Mainstream history. From 1 Kings 11 and 2 Chronicles 9, note Solomon's later years as a time of decline, his kingdom strained by internal strife and divine judgment. You see him now, in his palace, leaning on a staff, eyes tracing the temple's silhouette from section 3. His wisdom, from section 2, still flickers, but it's weary, clouded by compromises. You recall section 13's Rehoboam, his unprepared heir, and section 9's Jeroboam, plotting in the north. Solomon knows the kingdom will split. Prophets like Ahijah said it, but you sense his resignation, a king out of moves. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some legends claim Solomon's final act was hiding the Ark of the Covenant, fearing its loss in the coming chaos. Picture him shuffling through a secret vault, muttering, "Good luck finding this." Likely fable, but you smirk, imagining him leading a cryptic map for Rehoboam. Joke 1. If he hid the Ark, he probably forgot where, like misplacing divine car keys. You wander the palace, where courtiers whisper of his decline. His harem, from section 6, still surrounds him, wives from Moab, Ammon, Sidon, but their laughter feels hollow. You see a Hittite princess adjust his robe, her touch gentle but distant. His idolatry, from section 8, has left scars. Priests shun him, their prayers cold. You recall section 14's divided heart, how he bent for love and power. Now that bending breaks him, his faith a faint echo of section 2's divine dream. You feel his isolation, A king whose wisdom can't mend his soul. Historians still argue whether Solomon's final days were repentant or defiant. Did he seek forgiveness for his idolatry? Or did he cling to his compromises, blind to the end? You ponder this, watching him dictate a proverb. Better is the end of a thing than its beginning. It's Ecclesiastes again, from section 11, his voice brittle with doubt. His wealth, from section 4, and alliances, from section 7, can't stop the North's defection. You hear a servant mutter, "The king's light fades," echoing section 11's heckler, warning of dark days. You slip into the temple, its gold dim. Solomon prays, but his words falter, unlike section 3's zealous king. You recall section 12's mystic lore. Did he seek answers in shadows? Or was it all myth? A quirky detail surfaces. Some say his ring, from section 1's tailies, lost its power as his faith waned, demons slipping free. You imagine it dull on his finger, a symbol of lost control. His justice, from section 10, once steadied Jerusalem, but now rebels chant Jeroboam's name, from section 9, beyond his reach. You feel the kingdom's pulse weaken, its unity, a memory dot at night. You climb a hill. Jerusalem's lamps faint below. Solomon's there, alone, staring at stars. You recall section 1's young Solomon, crushing Adonijah, and section 5's Sheba, testing his wit. That fire's gone, his eyes hollow. His proverb, "All is vanity," from section 11, hangs heavy. You think of section 14's mirror, showing his flaws. Did he ever face it? His allies, from section 7, drift. Egypt eyes his borders. You hear a boy hum a rebel tune, defiant. Job 2, his empire so shaky, even the wind's picking a side. You sit by a gate, the air cool. A merchant mutters of a broken crown, his tone grim. Solomon's final days are a requiem. His temple stands, his proverbs linger, but his kingdom crumbles. You recall section 13's doomed heirs, carrying his name but not his strength. His wisdom, once divine, couldn't outrun his choices. You sense the end, a king fading into his own legend. Joke 3, his reign so done, even the scribes are writing his obituary. You rest, the weight of his fall heavy. Solomon's light, once blinding, now flickers, his empire a breath from collapse. You're ready to wind down, to ease this tale into sleep. The night deepens, and Jerusalem's hum softens, like a lullaby over stone. You're no longer in Solomon's court, but in a quiet place where his story settles like dust. His wisdom built marvels, his failures broke them, and now his name drifts into history's embrace. You feel the city fade, its gold and shadows blending into starlight. Let the weight of his choices slip away, like sand through your fingers. The temples glow, the rebels chants, the clink of his gold. They're distant now, a tale told. Your breath slows, the world gentle, as Solomon's saga whispers you toward dreams. Sleep calls soft as a desert breeze, carrying you to rest.